Hey, what's up, guys? We talked a little bit two times ago, so 2 days ago, about some of the important things to keep in mind when it comes to like making sure that your players are playing about the right amount of time, and some of the frustrations that you have with Diamond Mine Baseball and the inability of the computer manager to get this done. I wanted to show you an example of kind of what happens if you do this wrong. So this was actually a blog post a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't seen it yet, you can always go back and find it again. There was a project that I remember I wasn't a part of, but that I remember following back in very early 2006. It actually started in late 2005 on Baseball Think Factory. This is when people were talking about the 2006 Yankees offense and whether it was going to be one of the best offenses of all time. Now, we've seen through the Dynasties book and through the Domination Index measure that indeed the 2006 Yankees did have one of the best offenses in the history of baseball, at least the history of the American League, relative to their league in terms of runs scored. But we're not going to talk too much about them today. What we're going to look at here is this thread and this project and kind of what went wrong. So without any further ado, we'll just open this up. Here is the thread on, of course, the Internet Archive. That's because Baseball Think Factory ended up doing something really stupid, they decided to get rid of all the old threads, including stuff like this. This was on the old Count the Rings blog, which is a Yankees blog, which was dumb. It should have been part of the official site, and they should have had their own blog for this, but whatever reason they didn't do it. This was SG in Atlanta who took charge of this. He came up with a list of 28 teams, and he says, we're going to have them duke it out over 1,000 simulated seasons. Spoiler alert, this didn't happen. In fact, as we're going to see in a second, this project was never completed, unfortunately, and there's a reason why. The question right away is, are you guys planning on trying to program the manager profiles to get the team to play the way it did historically, or to maximize the results in the game? Look, you can plan to do whatever it is that you plan to do, but the truth of the matter is that you're not going to be able to get Diamond Mine Baseball to be realistic in this situation, because you know as well as I do that when you look at how are we going to get this to work? How are we going to set this up? How are we going to set that up? It ends up being just a whole bunch of question marks. Who knows? Who knows how to set this up correctly? Who knows how to get the computer manager to do the right thing? As we've seen, the computer manager for this game was created sometime probably in the 80s. I mean, by 1993, it was essentially the same as it is today, right? We see that we went through the whole, demo of the game from 93. While there may have been some changes made, the game is basically the same as before. The sliders are exactly the same. It's the same product, and it has the same problems that it's always had. Anyway, they're just saying, I'm using Diamond Mine's official versions of almost every team. I think the ratings are pretty fair. For the teams I had to create, I used the ratings they had assigned to those players on other discs that I had. So he was using the all-time greatest teams discs and then the season discs for other teams, which is a problem in itself, but it's okay. There's a question as to how to use Shane Spencer in the 98 Yankees. If you know, he was a late season September call-up who hit like 400 or something crazy like that. You think Shane Spencer is bad, you have no idea what's coming. So let's see if we can jump ahead here to the correct part of this thread, and hopefully I'll be able to find this. Let's see. This is around where the season begins. My apologies for scrolling through this really quickly. Yeah, run your 1,000 seasons, report on the one season that closely matches the results. Diamond Mine makes it easy to filter out. You'll get a lot of variation in seasons, blah, blah, blah. Joe might be watching this, but he's an experienced Diamond Mine solitaire simmer. I guess. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Going and doing I'm going to replay 1,000 seasons approach while the stats people tend to like that. It's really boring. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Diamond Mine has a real-life injury log. It does, but good luck trying to get it to go straight over into your replay. The problem that we have here is not that, though. The problem is the way the players are overplayed, which is what we'll see. So we had the first week up and going. SG in Atlanta decided to post 1 week at a time, and he would highlight a game of the week. So you have the 84 Tigers beating up on the 78 Yankees. Good stuff, and we can go through and we can look and see sort of what happens. Actually, we can't because the Internet Archive screwed up. It's a shame we can't see this game, which was an 18-inning thriller. It looks like I'm not sure who won. We can't even see who won, so we won't be able to do that. We'll go over here to page 4 very quickly. and see if we can figure out a little bit more of what happens. I don't know how much has been archived. It looks like not too much. There's week 4. There is a link here, by the way. I'll show you this as well in case you want to see. You can find this all on my blog. So you have the 1912 Red Sox and the 1909 Pirates, right? It seems like a great idea, and it seems like a lot of fun to get this set up and to get this played, right? Week 5, the highlighted game again, the 2001 Mariners against the 78 Yankees, this time a 15-inning game that ends 12-11. The Mariners just losing. Mariners, by this point in time of the season, are right in the middle of the pack. So the way that this was designed is he decided not to use any divisions. It's just 14 teams here and 14 teams there. These are 14 are all pre-1960. These are all post-1960. And then the designated hitter rule depended on the rule at the home team ballpark. So you only had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams with designated hitters. That was it, right? So, I mean, we can argue back and forth about, like, what the best idea was, what a better idea would have been to set this up. You can see here week 7, and then look, we have this problem again. And might I add that, like, this is a very good reason to not create a major project that is only on a message board, because sometimes the message board goes down, sometimes the posts go down, sometimes things break. And then if it's, 17 years later and almost 18 years later, and some idiot wants to go look at it and see what you did, that idiot can't. And the reason why is because the posts are gone because you used a message board instead of a blog. Please use blogs. Here's the webpage he made up. It was very, very simple. Internet Archive has this saved. This is the last version of the page that was saved. There are some game results. I don't think that these lead to anything of any use. Oh, perhaps they do. I don't know. We'll take a look and see. The Internet Archive back then had a problem with saving like full pages, and sometimes, as we just saw, it would get only the part of pages. We could pick a game at random, like see the 55 Dodgers against the 89 Athletics, which shouldn't happen. I guess he did have cross-league play. Then why have these? Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to ask too many questions about it. That's what it looked like. But now we're going to get to the fun part of this and the reason why you have to be careful. Because as you go closely through this, you'll realize that there are problems. Look at this. Ginsburg is not only 1 away from the triples record, but he's 12 away from the hit-by-pitch record. Who is Ginsburg? Who do you think Ginsburg is? Well, I'll tell you the answer right here. Ginsburg refers to a player on the 1954 Indians. So what happened is the computer manager decided to overuse 2 players, backup catcher Joe Ginsburg and utility infielder Jim Dick. Joe Ginsburg in 1954 had 3 games, 3 plate appearances, 2 at-bats. He got 1 hit, which was a triple, and then he was, I believe, hit by a pitch once, which is why he's getting hit by a pitch a lot, and had an RBI. He hit .500 with a 2.167 OPS and a 477 OPS plus. Jim Dick in 1954 played only 2 games. He had 2 plate appearances, 1 at-bat for a hit for 1,000 average, 1,000. 2,000 was his OPS because it's 1,000 plus 1,000, right? Interesting stuff. But look at this. Ginsburg was 1 away from the triples record, right? Let's see if we can find something here, right? Yeah, the 54 Indians were 65 and 45 at this point in time. We're going to disqualify this team, right? Where would they be without the dynamic duo? Yes. That is a good question. Where would they be? In fact, there are players who had awful batting stats, interestingly enough, who continue to get playing time, such as Roger Maris in 67 or Yogi Berra in 61. But the concern that really happened here was that the Indians manager was overusing the team. This scheme is an example, and this is the one that I kind of quote in the blog post. So this is the 27 Yankees of the 48 Indians. I'm sorry, it's not this one. And look at that. It didn't save this. Okay, well, we'll have to go up forward. Let's see if we can get the version of this that has everything. We'll take a look. We'll go and scroll on down. Again, the problem that we have is that, this wasn't saved on a blog, which would have been useful and would have been interesting, except for the fact that this was falling apart. This here, jolly old Saint Neck Wound, is Andy, who's a well-known poster on Baseball Premier, Baseball Think Factory, who has a real, pardon me for using the term, but a hate boner against the 54 Indians, because he always comes over here and say that they did play 500 below 500 against the over 500 teams in the league, and then they have a mirage because they were good against really bad teams. Never mind the fact that every good team does that. But the problem is that the way that the 54 Indians are winning in this is nothing more than Jim Dick and Joe Ginsburg, right? There's at least one game every update where the Indians are down by a couple in the ninth, and then they have Dick go on, get a pinch hit single, and then Ginsburg hits a pinch hit triple, and then there's the sac fly, and then they win, right? They went to the 78 Yankees, and Ginsburg hit 9 triples, right? So there's a problem here is what I'm saying, right? And this is the reason why we need to do research on transactions, right? Here we go. This is the game I was looking for, the 54 Indians at the 75 Reds. And what happens in this case, look, Dick came in to hit. He walked. He had coming out of this game an .823 batting average, right? Which is incredible. And here's Joe Ginsburg, who came as a pinch hitter. He had 2 at-bats. He scored a run, and he got a hit, .495 batting average. And guess what Ginsburg did? Ginsburg came up, and he hit a triple. So it kept going. They featured in every single game and actually helped the Indians win the pennant, right? So that's what's going on here. I'm trying to see down here somewhere. It's going to tell me what these guys were hitting. Yeah, here we go. Very end of the season, they did disqualify the 54 Indians because there's nothing more you could do. Joe Ginsburg hit .496, .672, and 1.344. So that's an OPS of over 2.000 in 106 games. Jim Dick was .812, .867, .826. So that's what, like 1,700 in 94 games for an OPS. I mean, it's just insane. It's insane. And these are guys who like barely played in real life, right? So this is the reason why we have to be careful and we have to make sure that we have transactions. If you're asking the question about why I will play with real life transactions on, the reason why is because you have to have something to make sure that Ginsburg and Dick don't come over and like steal everybody's lunch. I'll show you here what happened. Jim Dick came on the Indians in late September 54 and played 2 games. That was it. And he was in for 1 plate appearance in each game. If we look at his player bio, I know because I looked at this before as part of the drafting experience, what we will see in his bio, as we'll scroll down, right here is that he was traded to Cleveland just a couple days into the season. They decided to send him to Richmond before he got into a game, and then he was called up very, very late in the season, which is what we just saw. Jim Dick should not be playing on the team for the whole season. Likewise, we have Joe Ginsburg. Ginsburg plays, I'll show you here in his game log, he plays only in April. He plays late April, 2 games, and then he plays in May. Doesn't start anything, comes in the 9th inning of every single one of these games, and then he's gone, right? Ginsburg, I believe, was he the one of these guys played on the 62 Mets? Yes, Ginsburg did play on the 62 Mets like 2 times, including the 62 Mets opener. Their home opener. But what Ginsburg did play for was the 1954 Indianapolis Indians, which was one of the best minor league teams of the 1950s, right? He was on the big team for just a couple of games, and then he went down because he wanted to get more playing time, as the backup catcher. And they said, well, okay, we'll send you to Indianapolis. I mean, he was a good player, but he wasn't it's not like he's going to go hit against the best teams of all time and hit whatever it was, 500, and Jim Dick's going to hit 890. You see what I'm saying? Now, I know that Diamond Mine has changed a little bit over the years, but it hasn't changed that much, right? You have to be careful with this. The same thing counts for playing OOTP and for playing any of these games. If you want it to be realistic, you have to be very, very careful with these guys. The best bet that you have is to have real life transactions. And if you're not playing in the exact same season as real life, you need to have a way to approximate those transactions. You need to have something set up so that Joe Ginsburg, if he's going to be playing according to his real life statistics, is not going to get a whole bunch of at-bats and he's going to be off like right at the start of the season, and that Jim Dick won't come along until the very end of the season for the 54 Indians. Right? That's the reason why we talk about limit bench playing time, that it's a really important thing to pay attention to. So the guy who set up this replay was not limiting his bench playing time. That much is obvious. That's really, really easy to see. But that's not really what the main issue is, right? Because limit bench playing time itself in Diamond Mine Baseball doesn't work that well as an approximation. You've got to do the research. You've got to set this up ahead of time. You got to spend time doing it, even if you have a greatest teams league, so that certain players are not overused, right? We'll talk about this a little bit more. I think this is a video that we can talk about a couple of times because there's a lot of players to talk about, and there are a lot of examples where you can see how things go totally haywire. But when you set up your next replay and you're thinking about doing a greatest teams league and you're trying to figure out how to set it up, remember Joe Ginsberg and Jim Dick from the 54 Indians. I'll talk to you later. Bye.